Hi, everybody. Welcome and happy Monday. Once again, I'm Jeanette Pierce. I'm the director of the City Institute and founder of Detroit Experience Factory. And I'm bringing you another episode of Discuss Detroit, where we talk with local small business owners, community leaders, and city residents about the city that we all love. Today, our special guest is Kiana Wenzell from Design Core Detroit. And hi, Kiana. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm great. How are you, Jeanette?
Awesome. I had a good Father's Day. It was really nice to spend some time with the fam outside. How
Yes,
about you?
it was great. I got to see my dad as well, so very thankful for that, and happy to be here today.
So glad you could join us. I'm so glad to have actually got to talk with you recently, and I feel like we could just talk forever and ever and ever.
I know.
But I want everyone else to get a chance to get to know you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us your 2-minute life story.
Sure, Kiana Wenzell. I'm the director of culture and community at Design Core Detroit, and I'm from Detroit. Grew up on the Northwest Side. I was first introduced to design at Cass Tech High School, where I studied architecture. I then went on to study interior design at Eastern Michigan University, worked in residential for several years. I went back to school, Lawrence Tech, and got my master's degree in technical writing and professional communication. Since 2016, I've been working at Design Core. I started out managing Drinks by Design, which is a program that Design Core produces monthly. It's a monthly gathering for Detroit's design community, and it will pop up all over the city, focusing on a different design discipline. So, kind of like my 2-minute life story.
Okay, and I think I popped out there for a little bit of it, but hopefully the connection stays good for the rest of it. So talk about growing up a little bit on the west side, right? I'm an east
Yep.
sider,
Okay.
so but and where a little bit where you about grew up and how you got interested in design.
Yeah, so I grew up in North Rosedale Park, which was like my parents still live there today. Absolutely beautiful neighborhood. All the homes are uniquely built in brick. And I really think that it because of North Rosedale and the feeling that I had walking around that neighborhood as a child is what planted a seed in me as far as a career in design. I just remember taking walks with my mom and my sister, like, oh, look at that house, it's so cute, or look at the stone, at that, the windy streets, the trees. Also, I went to St. Mary's of Redford. It's a historic Catholic school and church on the west side of Detroit. And I remember going to mass on Wednesdays in this beautiful church, and we would sing and all that. And so at a young age, I started to relate the visual environment and the built environment with feeling, emotion, and psychology. I was fortunate to be able to take art in school. My mom was a Detroit public school teacher, so I always tell people I literally like grew up in school. She taught at Winterhalter Middle School, Linwood and Davison. So I would go there, and when it came time for me to go to high school, they said, well, you get to choose a curriculum. Do you want to do like science or economics or do another language, or would you like to do architecture? And I said, that's it. Like, I didn't really know what it meant to be an architect. I had never met an architect, never met an interior designer before, but I always knew that I had this connection to the built environment. So I'm very thankful. 9th through 12th grade was able to study architecture, then went on, also spent some time at the DIA. When in between my senior year in high school and college, I stumbled into the DIA, fell in love with it, and ended up volunteering there for several years and became a member of the docents committee at the DIA, where I would go and talk about the museum's permanent collection at assisted living places, at local libraries, which was really like my introduction to design education and community, because I feel like my passion and my sweet spot is kind of like the intersection of design, community, and economics. And so taking this docent class and volunteering with the DIA helped me to see how we would go into the community, talk about what was at the DIA to try to bring people to the city. It was kind of like a marketing strategy, really, that outreach. I also worked at the Henry Ford Museum when I was in college. I interviewed there, and I was a docent for like the Model T, I was a 50s girl in Greenfield Village, so I got to like dress up in a 50s outfit and really kind of like use that narrative, that storytelling, art history, design history to educate attendees when they would come about our history and our region's rich legacy. So I just continued that work with my studying and technical writing, professional communication. I know that there's no shortage of ideas in the world. So I was like an interior designer, selling the interiors, talking about fabric, asking my clients, how does this make you feel? How do you want to feel? Then I would go back and translate that into like a storyboard and a layout for them. Then I would come back to them and just basically repeat what they told me, but I was helping to interpret it for them. So that's when I really said, you know what, I want to take this skill and translate it so my designs can have a greater impact. Instead of helping somebody just with like their living room or their kitchen, what if I design something that could impact 1 million people, you know, or the world? Like that's the power of design. So I love the work that I do at Design Core because I feel like my career is kind of over the past several decades, believe it or not, has led me to this point.
That's so wonderful. And I mean, design is so diverse, right? I think that that's one of the like all of those things that you just talked about. There were so many different aspects of design in there, but a lot of times people can think of it as this like just this one monolithic artsy type of thing. But talk about how what design is and how it does affect all different industries and how it's such a big part of Detroit.
Sure. I like to start with design as a process. So that's really, for me, design is a process. If it's an idea that you have in your mind, moving that idea to concept phase, research phase, development phase, final implementation, then you're taking it to market, then it's on a shelf, then somebody's buying it. Then you look at the life cycle cost of that product, you know, when we talk about upcycling and things going in landfills. So design is not one thing. It's kind of like an infinite process that continues to go on. And we design products, services, and systems.
Oh, I think we lost her. But it really is amazing the amount of things that design does touch. So she was saying products, services, and systems. The system side, it was a really new and kind of eye opener for me. I also want to make sure that we point out like how great I wanted to talk when she was talking about the Detroit Institute of Arts, that we have these assets in our backyard that we totally take for granted. So the DIA is one of the best art museums in the country, if not the world. And we might have gone there as children, or we might have been a couple times, but it's something I challenge people on tours all the time, waiting to really look, making sure people can actually know what the DIA has to offer, because there's so many great assets there that people travel around the world for. And we had the first Van Gogh in any United States museum. And the Diego Rivera fresco there is actually, the New York Times art critic said it was the closest thing America has to the Sistine Chapel. So welcome back.
Hi, I'm back.
Technology. I was just giving a little bit of a when you had mentioned the DIA, I just wanted to remind people how big of a asset it is that sometimes we take for granted.
Right.
But you were saying there are the three types of
Yeah.
autonomous.
Yeah. So design, when a lot of people, one of the biggest myths is like design is just surface level. But people design services. Like we had Detroit's design listening session talking about the mobile COVID testing units. So who designed like for the mobile testing units to get out and test people, which is talking about population health, you had to like design a service when people drive up, what's going to happen, who's going to wear what, who's going to swap, who's going to, you know, so when you're servicing
Step one, step two,
step
then
one,
this
step two of the service. And then the system would be like, think of Henry Ford and the Model T and the assembly line. Like if you have a good system that's efficient for productivity, it can change the world. Then you have like the product, the car, you know, and so thinking about design in those three parts, everything is designed. The school system is designed. Housing in neighborhoods, design, so really think about design like that, and then breaking it down into the different industries. That's my best definition. Design is a
Yeah, no,
process.
that's so great. And I think that's why it's so great to have Design Core really get encompassing all of these different types and helping get the word out that it isn't just design, isn't just fashion, it isn't just art. Those are part of it,
Mhm.
absolutely, right?
Right.
And I know myself, I'm not, my brain is not a visual. That is not my skill set. It's not that I have a lot of skill sets, and I'm totally okay. No, I think it's important to know what your skill sets are and what they
Right.
are not. And visual, like I can't remember what shirt I wore yesterday or what color the wall is in
Mhm.
like where I work. I mean, I have like almost no visual memory when it comes to that. But working with designers and graphic designers, and it is something you can get a little bit better at and
Mhm.
start to notice. But if you've never been introduced to it,
Right.
then it's really difficult. But it also is. I thought I wasn't a design. Oh, I'm not design. I don't design. I could never. But in this new way that we're thinking about it,
Mhm.
I'm designing tours all the time. I'm creating, right? So design is almost a synonym for creating.
Yeah, you've designed a process and a system for giving tours around the city that's educating, making a difference. Everyone is a designer by default.
Right, and I think getting people to really realize that
Right.
it isn't
Mhm.
that, and I love the example about the COVID mobile units
Mhm.
because again, it really impacts our daily life and
Right.
like in public health and we just hammering that home that it is not solely this fluffy, only surface level thing like you mentioned. I think is really important. So, what are some of the programs that Design Core Detroit has?
Yeah.
What do you guys do at
Yeah,
Design
sure.
Core?
Yeah. So Design Core was founded in 2010 by the College for Creative Studies, and we're housed at the College for Creative Studies. And our mission is to establish Detroit as a globally recognized and valued center for creative talent. So if someone is looking for a designer, locally, nationally, or internationally, we want them to source from Detroit. So we feel like that's our secret sauce, Detroit. And in order to move towards that mission, we support design driven businesses. So our tagline is championing design driven businesses. We are champions of Detroit design. And if Detroit design businesses are healthy, if they're growing, if they're scaling, then our city's region is going to be better. It's going to be more sustainable. It's going to be more equitable because research has shown that Detroit has one of the highest concentrations of industrial designers. Our region has some of the highest concentration of research and development facilities. Think of just the automotive industry.
Engineering is part of design.
Engineering is part of design. And with that, the research, when I was talking about the mobile testing units, that was a partnership between Ford Motor Company and Wayne State University's like medical center. Dr. Philip Levy from Wayne State studying population health, leading the way, and then Kristen Welch from Ford Motor Company, they came together and collaborated on this mobile testing unit because Ford created the vehicle, this van that they can drive up, a tent pops out, has everything you need for testing. Then you have Wayne State saying, okay, when we get the swab, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like that's design, that's the research, that's the development that's coming out of Detroit. We're leading the way in mobility and not just cars getting from point A to point B, whether you're walking. We're looking at smart streets. We're looking
Logo you mentioned
logo.
just expanded. Yeah.
Shout out to Lisa and
Yeah.
Adriel at Mogo. You see the bird. You're looking at ride sharing, whether it's I'm taking the bus and then I'm kind of taking Uber and then I may be riding a bike. So different things like that. That's all our region. But despite all that, we still have many struggles. You know,
Yeah.
so it's just about using design as a catalyst for more equitable and sustainable. Right now, Design Core is on a value of design campaign, helping businesses see that value is design is good business. It saves you time and it saves you money as a business owner.
One of our taglines at when we DHive, which was a collaborative project
Mhm.
of our organization, and then the Build Institute grew out of there, but was that design is not an afterthought.
Right.
right? That a lot of times people will, a small business might be tempted to, you know, put some stuff together kind of quickly and then be
Mhm.
like, oh, let's call the designer in and have them try to figure, like make a flyer or a logo or something. And it's so much more about integrating into that and the systems and the whole everywhere, right? Every part of a business it touches.
And when you said that, when you bring the designer on at the back end, then you miss out on that user approach and getting the user involved. So once you sell someone on hiring a designer, because a lot of people think they can design it themselves. I can design my own website. I could do it myself. So first we sell them on the value of hiring a designer. Then we say inclusive design, looking at the full spectrum of society, making sure that you're hearing from the community that you're designing with them, not for them. You're going to even have a better outcome for the business that you're opening, the product that you're launching. Hearing from the community and inclusive design approach from the beginning is even better than just design.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that so and then how does Detroit Design Month fit into this? So you have that's a big, I mean, it went from a week to a month.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
a little bit
yes,
about
yes.
that and the different pieces of it.
Great. Yeah. So going back to our mission of establishing Detroit as a globally recognized and valued design capital, we have 3 departments within Design Core. The first is business programs, giving traditional business support to design-driven businesses, and then offering customized matchmaking opportunities where we're matching our designers with people who need design services. That's supply and demand.
So if I'm launching a new business
Yeah.
and I need a whole brand,
Great.
not just a logo, but like really, again, what is the message that I want to be sharing with my future customers and the community that I'm in? So I could reach out to Design Core
Mhm.
and fill out a form, and then
Mhm.
you send that to this network of design professionals that can help, right? And then they do
Yes.
like a process, like they all different people apply. Oh, I could help, and then is that how it works?
Yeah, Design Core has the Detroit Design Network, which is a membership-based network. It's an interdisciplinary network, so a variety of design services from emerging to established. So if you need design services, you can let us know. We'll post that to the network. We have 106 designers in our network right now, and it's growing like every month. We'll post
Yeah.
it to our network. These are all pre-qualified designers, so you know you're getting someone that meets like a standard. Then you could have 3 or 4 designers answer your call for the design services. Talk with them and find a designer that's a good fit for you, and you're sourcing local talent, which is good for your business and good for our economy. So that's number 1. And then number 2 is the Detroit Month of Design, which is the second department. I lead that department. So I'm curating the calendar for the Detroit Month of Design, celebrating 10 years. What a milestone year. The first festival was in 2011. Thank you. That's our logo for this year. Celebrating 10 years started out as a 5-day festival in 2011. It was over 80 events that first year, just like everybody, all designers throwing in the hat, coming in. Since then, it's grown from 5 days to the whole month in 2018. We expanded. And now we've curated the calendar. So we still have about 55 to 60 events of all over the city. Events occur all over the city, September 1st through the 30th. This year, we are moving forward with a hybrid approach. We've been, because of what's going on in the world, it's a year in a pandemic.
That was going to be one of my next questions. Like,
So
how has COVID affected everything, and how are you pivoting?
yeah, very interesting because our open call launched in February, pre-COVID. Our open call closed April 20th, post-COVID. And we weren't really sure, when COVID really hit, were people still going to submit ideas? Were they still going to want to participate? We weren't sure. But I'm happy to report that our design community answered the call. We received over 166 applications in 3 categories. So it was very similar to last year. And
Yeah.
in the events category, we received 79 applications. And then we launched an interactive design competition. We awarded 1 winner for that, Hook Studio. And then for our Design in the City program, which is made possible through a grant that we received from Gucci North America and their Change Makers Council. We are launching for the first time Design in the City, which is a fashion and accessories program that
Ah,
supports fashion and accessory designers with an emphasis on women and designers of color to create an installation, get mentorship, technical assistance, and distribution opportunities in September during the month of design.
that's so amazing.
Yes.
So wow. So it's gonna be, and obviously the thing is, it's difficult because things are changing, information's changing, what's happening, what people are comfortable doing is, so it's got to make it extra difficult for you guys to be
Right.
planning for something a few months away. But this hybrid idea makes sense, right? You could always ramp up and ramp down, and people, I think we're gonna have some online and virtual experiences that are gonna be with us for a while. And I think, with the tours that we're doing, and we're going to be doing a tour focused on design, and virtual tour this Friday. But and we've actually seen that there's some cool aspects to it, and people can join from all over. You might have higher attendance than ever
Great.
for,
Yeah.
who knows.
Mhm.
So that's really exciting. Is there anything, any particular, is there a calendar or like a schedule what's the timeline for that release?
Yeah, August 1st. The calendar will be released early August, but we have about 55 to 60 events in 7 categories. So we have exhibitions, experiences. One experience is AIGA Detroit is doing a music by design event, 24 hours of music between Detroit, Chicago, and Berlin, which will be really cool. Out of the exhibitions category, we have Soft House, which Chen Lee and Hayden Richard, they're Cranbrook alumni, and Chen now teaches at LTU. So they're looking at product design and furniture, landscapes of quarantine. Aaron Kelly and Amanda Morin, they're looking at, they're going to do a field school where people actually can kind of tour through some landscape areas, like a typical traditional field school, and they're going to combine that with an exhibition from the data that people collect on their field school. Never Normal is an interesting title by Nur. She's one of our Detroit Design Network members, looking at concept to final product, just looking at design as a process and imagination. Like, what role does your imagination play? You can't design and create what you can't imagine.
Right.
So in this new society, everyone's like imagination is running wild right now because
Right.
people are in this never know. Well, I want to go back to what was normal. It was never normal. Imagination when it's not overdue. So exhibitions, experiences, installations, some outdoor installations,
We have a tour.
a tour, Detroit
We're gonna be doing
Experience Factory, downtown architecture tour. We have a youth track for young people. We want them to consider design as a career option. And then we have some open studios. So those are the 7 tracks that we have this year, and we'll have them tagged. So really, the Detroit Month of Design, it's a multidisciplinary design festival that occurs throughout the city, September 1st through the 30th. And it's an opportunity for Detroit designers to showcase their latest works and ideas and highlight the reason why Detroit is the first and only UNESCO City of Design.
I love that fact. I love telling people that we are the first and only. I mean, that's huge, right? I mean,
that's huge.
And one of only 3. I mean, it's like 1 in Canada, 1 here, 1 in South America.
There are a total of over 31 cities. I think they're close to 40 now, but they're all over the world. Detroit's still the first and only in the US. So Montreal, Mexico City, I was able to go there. Saint Etienne, France, Helsinki, Graz, Austria, Cape Town, South Africa, Singapore. You can go to our website and check out the map.
Yeah, we had leaders from Graz come, and we did a whole like they were here for a week, and we helped with a learning journey. We do these things that are kind of beyond tours, where tours are really great, and we have our art and architecture all the time, or neighborhood tours, but our learning journeys are more like a day or 2 days or multiple days, and create an entire more holistic thing. And we had a great time with the leaders from Graz, who really came to learn from Detroit, both on the design side, but a lot around entrepreneurship. That trip was really focused on our entrepreneurial ecosystem, which of course, the design businesses are a really big part of. And again, there's that word system, right? How do you, how does a city support entrepreneurship? And we had Christiane from Build Institute on recently as well, to talk about it. But it all goes together, right? But it's entrepreneurship, design, but the bigger part, I think, that people don't realize, because we're so in our own silos and focus in our day-to-day stuff, which makes sense, but that the world is paying attention to Detroit, that the world wants to learn from us. And sometimes we think, man, we've got a lot of messed up stuff. What can the people learn from us necessarily, right? But
Jeanette was just saying, what can the world learn from us? But we're still here. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, but we never give up. And what's great about being a UNESCO City of Design is that designers are creative thinkers and doers. And when your city is facing challenges like we are now and like we have in the past, you rely even more on your design community to create the services, systems, and products that can help launch you and propel you into the next generation and serve as an intervener. What you were saying, Jeanette, about people look to us and we think that, you're looking to us and all of this. And I just say that's why designers are needed now more than ever. And what's great about Detroit is that we are overcomers. We don't give up. We're persistent. And, we bounce back,
Yeah. And the challenges that we faced over the year, like there is, and there's all sorts of things, but like scarcity breeds innovation. I mean, we have had scarcity, but that is why we have amazing amounts of innovation and inspiration, right? Like we just have to do it. So people, whether it's mow the lawn next to them because it wasn't, or start, Rebel Nell we talked about earlier, like how can we help create some, connect jobs, but it's not enough to create a job or create this awesome jewelry, by the way, for those that aren't familiar, that takes graffiti paint that has fallen down off murals and walls and makes jewelry out of them, but hires people who, women especially, that need a job, but also provides financial literacy and childcare and wraparound services. I mean, this whole that doesn't exist in other places because people didn't need to some extent, right? So and I think that's what we're seeing, now too. But that's why the world comes to us, and that's why at City Institute we shared lessons learned from Detroit, because we have a lot to share with the world because of that ability to just keep on keeping on and get stuff done and step up and work together. Honestly, that's a huge part that I find people telling me from when they come from other cities, that you're not going to see a bunch of designers working together on things, or artists working together as much in other places, or small business owners. But there really is this desire to have an impact on this city that we all care about. And I think that's really special.
That is, yes. Design as intervention. How can a designer intervene and help things from going from bad to worse,
Right. Well, and what role, design has been a big part about fighting racism and injustice throughout history. And right now, how do you see that role? And what are some examples of how design can have a positive impact?
Yeah. We've seen a lot of, I would say, like visual communication recently. Look at the Power to the People mural by Hubert Massey, or even the design of like the Charles Wright Museum, And one thing that I was pointing out when you're talking is I'm on the leadership team for the National Organization of Minority Architects, which was founded in Detroit in the 50 years ago, in the 1970s, I believe it was 1971, at an AIA conference, because our region has one of the highest concentrations of designers, including architects. It only makes sense that we would have a higher concentration of minority architects. There's very few minority architects licensed, especially African American in the United States anyways. And we're working on, that's what this organization NOMA is all about. Yeah. And so 50 years ago at an AIA conference in Detroit, NOMA was founded by 7 Black architects who had never met each other and said, we need to stay in contact with each other. We need to support each other.
And how do people not know that, right? I mean, that's why when we do our tours, it's about locals and why need to know about her own history, right? Where we're from. We actually partnered with NOMA to do a Black architect tour of Detroit, right? And I think we're going to be doing that one again too, because there's so much. And just adding it also into our regular architecture tour, right? It means it's important to have the Black architect voices, talked about in Detroit of all places. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and also, Noir Design Party, Cameron Burton, Sandra Little. So when we talk about design justice, I like to go back into what goes in a studio is what comes out of a studio. And so when we think about the pipeline and having more diversity, if we want our built environment and our exterior to be a reflection of our community, we have to make sure that we have more diverse represented in the design studios, more represented diverse voices in the classroom. When it comes, I was very fortunate to be able to study architecture in the 9th grade. That helped me move. I moved through the pipeline. Now I'm a practitioner. Now I have a responsibility to help the next generation of designers say, hey, consider design as a career option. I public speak at Detroit Public Schools, and the title of my talk is The Power of Design. I look at these high school students, I said, look, everything around you has been designed. This building has been designed. The chair that you're sitting on has been designed. The table you're writing on, this presentation everything around you has been designed. But the problem is that we're not always involved in the process. We're all users, but do you have a say in the design of that? So when it comes to design justice, some of it is it's qualitative, like what are your hiring practices? Are professors supporting, minority students on the college level in a classroom? Because to get a design degree is expensive. You have a lot of supplies. If you want to become an architect, you have to take a lot of exams, getting an internship. So it's looking at hiring practices. Then, as far as getting like licensed, just giving, so
lots of barriers.
It's a lot of barriers with design. And it's every industry. If you look at all design industries and look at diversity levels, whether it's advertising, architecture, transportation, is low representation, and that starts to show on the outside in the built environment and what we see. And so I think one way to start is with young people. We can't change the past, but we can influence the future. So let's make sure we're mentoring young people. We're giving them an opportunity to internship. We're doing workshops. We have NOMA has a free virtual architecture camp that we're doing in August. So it's lots of camps around. I know Brooke Middlecott is doing the junior sketch battle where he's getting young people interested in like automotive design and transportation and things like that. So, and then I also, when I went to a NOMA conference a couple of years ago, there was a lecture on metaphors, monuments and metaphors, where you're looking at the built environment. You see a lot of these sculptures being taken down or naming conventions when you design a building. We did have the president talking about changing the federal mandate on architecture styles to be European classicism. That non-verbal communication is stronger than verbal communication.
Yes.
You can speak without speaking, Jeanette. So when you restrict someone's visual voice, that's oppression. So when you say you can only design public buildings in one style, that's a European classicism style, it's a lot of people that you're leaving out. So, jazz can be transferred into architecture style. Hip hop can be transferred into an architectural style. Latin music could be translated into architecture style. So when you think about culture, you think about community, you want the built environment of that community to be reflective of its people. So as you're building over time, a city only looks the way that it does because the people hopefully have had a say in it, or it's going to look like whoever's been able to design it. And so that's really truly design justice. You have kind of like in the boardroom, in the classroom, in order to get that on the other side.
That's a really amazing, I mean, a lot to think about. And you're right. I mean, like who has designed everything so far, right? I mean, it was old white guys, right?
Right.
For the vast majority of time. And yeah, that's wow. So I mean, it's such an important part of this conversation right now. And I think to your point too, like designer, I mean, if you think of, the posters that people are holding up in marches, or what are people sharing on Facebook, or Instagram, especially. I mean, when I feel like the strongest, things that can really change people's minds are designers creating these pieces that really speak to people, whether it's infographics of breaking down systemic racism, or even just seeing a poster that inspires, or even Black Lives Matter, as a message, and then how it's on, that's all design, right? I mean, and I think I'm now, like, just talking with you has made me just realize just how important design is. I mean, I always knew it was important to some extent, but I'm just continually learning that it really does touch everything. And this part, this design justice side, I really want to look more into that and learn more about it, and get more people knowing about it, because I think, all the things that you said are right on with. We got to teach the children. The children are our future, right?
I know. It's so true. We're both moms, so we know that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like that. I think that there's that 99% invisible podcast, right? But it's the idea that good design is like, you don't necessarily notice it, right? Because it's part of the fabric. But getting people to notice that this fabric wasn't necessarily built for them, and that they should have a role in it, I think, could be really, really awesome. So before we wrap up, I just want to give you an opportunity to, because again, we could just chat forever.
I know.
Doing that. What can people do to help in anything, whether design core? What do you what's the call to action, about any of the topics that you've talked about, or anything you haven't talked about for that matter?
Yeah, sure. So my number one call to action would be, if you need design services, no matter what it is, please contact Design Core. We can connect you with a member of our Detroit Design Network, source local talent if possible. Number two would be, please mark your calendar for the Detroit Month of Design, September 1st through the 30th, celebrating 10 years. And this is really a platform to showcase the latest works and ideas of Detroit's design community on a local, national, and international level. Second, lastly, I would say, everyone just advocates and protests in their own way. I just want everyone to know that every individual act that you do matters, and being kind to people, being open-minded. Our values at Design Core is collaboration, be willing to collaborate, be willing to hear diverse experiences, and be accessible, because being available for you today and just sharing this message, hopefully I inspire somebody,
Absolutely.
And how you spend your time, how you spend your money kind of shows where your values are. And I think this day and age, going through this crisis, social unrest, health crisis, is really kind of like stripping people down and say, like, what's the purpose of what I'm doing? Where do my values lie in society right now? So we're always looking for volunteers. So source local, attend Month of Design, try to be a good person and stay open-minded. So that's my call to action.
Those are great call to action and very doable. And that's the thing, is that people out there, if you're listening to us, right? It's just something, do something, right? And there's a lot of opportunities to do something. Again, support, Black businesses in the city, support local designers, volunteer. I think that's great. There's a lot of people looking for ways to volunteer, and Design Corps. So www.designcorps.org here on the screen is a great place to start. And thank you so
Thank you.
much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing everybody back on another episode of Discuss Detroit. And don't forget to follow City Institute on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and Detroit Experience Factory also. But definitely Design Corps. And I guess I should also plug too, it's a nonprofit. So I'm sure you also take donations to
Yes.
Design Corps
Yes.
too. So, some people, that's the way that they can support, and that is always welcome. So, so Design Corps as a nonprofit, you can definitely donate there on the website as well. Well, thank you so much, and
Thank you,
we will talk
Jeanette.
very soon. And please let us know if we can be of any help moving forward. I'm sure we'll be chatting about a bunch of different things between now and Design Festival.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, have a great day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.
Everybody.